Awesome. Welcome everybody to the advanced call for June. Excited to have you. And these are always a really fun call where we're able to talk about some of the more advanced features in the app and, of course, the social media content that we're highlighting in this month's marketing package. While we let everybody pile in, if you guys wouldn't mind, let us know where you're joining from. It's always fun to see, where we've got folks joining from. We've got the app available across the nation. And so I know a lot of you got H-Town. Awesome. Fellow Texan in the building. Awesome. Florida here, Oregon. Man, excited to see, some of our agents from across the nation, Indiana, Georgia, a lot of different areas, agents across the nation using this amazing tool. And hopefully you had the chance to join the basics call. This is a part two. This is the advanced call. For those of you who have not joined the basics call, where I cover the buyer calculator, the seller calculator, and setting up your profile, you'll want to connect with your rep, and they'll, of course, be able to get you signed up for the next basics call or get you a recording, whichever you prefer. If you don't have a title partner that you've connected with and you're using the unbranded version of the app, I know there are a couple of you out there. Feel free to reach out to our support team, support@palmagent.com, and we'd be happy to help you with getting on the next basic session or getting you the recording. But again, this advanced call, we're going to go a little deeper. And so excited to have you guys join. And I know some of you were reaching out to our support team, making sure that you had the link to join today's call. Amanda, I'm thinking about you specifically, but excited to have you all here and get to talk about some of this cool stuff. Now, a few caveats I do want to mention. I'm using an unbranded PalmAgent version of the app, not tied to a specific title partner. So the functionality will be the same, but the fees and, of course, the branding may be a little different than the app that you're using, for all of you joining today, because you're probably using a specific version provided to you by your title partner. So again, I'm Mike with PalmAgent, and we partner with title operations across the nation to make sure that this app is dialed in for agents across the nation. And so again, I'll be using an unbranded version. Another thing I do want to mention throughout our time today, we're going to take a look at some cool stuff. We do have a survey that we'll put up. In fact, I'll go ahead and put the QR code up right now for any of you that want to go ahead and take that survey right now. It's not only about how well I've done today so that my boss lets us keep doing this, but also, you can get access to, beta features. We have an option on there for you to sign up to get access to new features as we release them. And of course, anything that you're looking to find out about the app, ways for it to evolve. There's a lot of cool stuff in that survey. Take 60 seconds. If you have the opportunity and chance to do it right now, feel free to do that. Again, we'll be pulling that up later in the call as well to give you guys another chance to take that survey. We really appreciate all the feedback. That's how we're able to continue evolving this tool and making it something that really helps you and your business. And with that in mind, let's go ahead and dive into the app. I'm going to pull up my iPad here and let's take a look at some of this cool stuff. Now, I know in the basics call, we talk about the buyer calculator, the seller calculator, and setting up your profile. And then sometimes I also tease an additional calculator just to get you on today's call so that you can see some of the cooler stuff that we have built into the app for you. But this is the advanced session. And so with our advanced session that I do once a month, we talk about specifically the new calculators or new features that are going to help you in your business. We did an update recently, where we released some really cool features. I'll definitely show you that on today's call, but I know some of you joined last month, and I did talk about some of those features last month. And so I'm going to load in some other stuff specifically for those of you who had the pleasure of joining us last week. But the other thing that we talk about in this advanced call is our monthly marketing package, the social media content that we're highlighting for the month based on the biggest conversations that we're seeing you guys have out there in the field with your clients. And so with that in mind, I'm going to open up my PalmAgent One app, and I'm actually going to go to the premium tab because I want to start by talking about that content that we've created and highlighted for the June monthly marketing package. And so for those of you who don't know, that tab bar down there at the bottom, I am in the premium tab, and this is that social media content library. It's got thousands of pieces of really innovative content to help us get more exposure for our brand on social media. And of course, if I go down to where it says, what do you want to post? That's where you'll see the categories. In infographics, those are single pieces, whereas swipeable infographics are multi-piece image sets. These two categories are really going to help you talk about relevant topics with your clients. And of course, you can see on some of these that they have example scenarios built into them. Well, all of our content is tied to the calculators that correspond with that piece of content. And so you can always adjust the example scenarios that you see on these pieces of content. Another cool thing to note about them, if you press the see all on the far right side, you're taken to a library view where you'll see a tab bar at the top with different versions, different sized versions of this content optimized for the various social media platforms. And so definitely something I wanted to mention about those two categories. We also have a category of content here called filters. This is home ownership month. June is one of the only holidays in real estate that we as agents get to celebrate. So we've got a lot of cool home ownership month filters loaded in there. If you don't know what filters are, they're a way for us to take a fun photo or video with a fun real estate themed frame. Take a picture of all of you guys on the call today. But these are really an easy way for you to make a quick post for the day and market your business. Snap a photo of you and the coworkers at that fundraising event, or take a picture of that listing you're trying to market. Record an open house invite. Snap a photo of those buyers sitting at the closing table, signing their paperwork for their first time buying a home. A category here of filters that you can use to take photos and videos with a fun little bit of real estate personality. And again, if you press see all, you got different sizes up there at the top. You also have different categories that you can scroll through here. Definitely a cool category. I urge you guys to check out. We then have videos that you can share where we pull your branding and put it at the back of that video. And then the last category is shareable calculators. This is where you'll find consumer versions of the calculators that you can share online and collect leads from anybody who interacts with those calculators. Real quick, Barbara asked a question about the trial and premium. This section of the app, the premium section, does require a subscription, you guys. It's 99 cents a month. You heard me right, 4 rusty quarters, and we give you a rusty penny back. So 99 cents a month, or if you want to pay for the full year, it's $9.99. Definitely such a great deal for getting access to this massive content library here. Well worth that 99 cents a month. For you specifically, Barbara, I would check your profile. You might be logged into an incorrect account. Sometimes we see people log in with typos. And so if you already paid for premium and you're seeing in your account that you don't have premium, my immediate thought is that you might be logged into the incorrect account. Our support team, support@PalmAgent.com, should also be able to help you with that. They'll be able to see if you have any duplicate accounts, check your premium subscription, all that. So support@PalmAgent.com will be the resource that you want to reach out to Barbara about your subscription to premium. All right, so now that you have a better understanding, for those of you who are new to our app, on what premium is, let's talk about this monthly marketing package. Again, this is something we do at the beginning of each month where we do a lot of market research, get a feel for the biggest conversations you guys are having out there with your clients, and then we create and highlight pieces of content to assist you in those different conversations or in those social posts, those online conversations. And so June is this month's marketing package. Let's go ahead and click on that featured card up there. And it's going to create a pop-up here. Now, some of you might have already seen this pop up when navigating to the premium section. You've got your monthly marketing package pop up here. And this is where you'll see the content that we're highlighting in the monthly marketing package. And before I scroll down and we take a look at it, I want to talk about the theme of this month's marketing package. With it being home ownership month, we wanted to help you guys give that push to those buyers to help them become homeowners. Of course, we care about our existing homeowners and those home sellers. Don't get me wrong, there's some amazing tools in the app. When we switch over to the calculators, I'll definitely at least talk about a couple that you can get out there and start using with your clients. But this month, with it being a home ownership month, we really want to help you guys give a little bit of a push again to those hesitant home buyers. As you guys know, we're in a time in the market where things have slowed down a little bit, and they don't traditionally slow down now. Summer is typically pretty hot market. Pretty hot time of year in our industry, but with rates where they are, some of these buyers, they're holding off a little bit longer, waiting for a lower rate. And so we've got some really cool content in our monthly marketing package for June to help you in those conversations. Starting with the first piece, it's a report that's actually the new report for our redesigned buy now or buy later calculator. This is a tremendous tool. Letitia asked if we have this in Spanish. We do have a lot of content in Spanish, and of course, our net sheets and buyer estimates you can translate to, it was previously 14, but about a week ago, we added 3 new languages. So 17 languages you can translate your buyer estimate and your seller net sheets into. I don't believe we have a Spanish version of this buy now or buy later piece yet, but we'll take a note down, Letitia. With this being such a powerful and popular calculator right now, absolutely we can get the team on making the Spanish version of this, especially with where AI is. We're able to do some really cool stuff here at PalmAgent with our AI partners. But back to this buy now or buy later report that we have. So buy now or buy later is one of our calculators that is the most relevant calculator for you to use in a conversation with a buyer in today's market. A lot of these buyers, like I said earlier, they're waiting for these lower rates. They're like, I hear the Fed's going to cut the rates in 6 months, 9 months, a year, so I'm going to wait. I'm going to hold off for a little while. They think that, waiting's actually going to be in their best interest, and by waiting, they'll get a lower rate, and then the home will be more affordable for them. But what they forget, you guys, is that homes appreciate over time, especially when there are low rates involved. That's when all the other buyers want to buy as well, and then buyers start fighting over homes, and it shoots home prices up even further. So if they're going to wait for a lower rate, they got to think about the fact that they'll probably be paying more for that home at that point as well, because homes generally appreciate. So the home's already going to be more expensive next year. If you throw low rates in there, it's going to be even more expensive because of that competitive aspect and the bidding wars that we see in those low rate environments. And so our buy now calculator, buy now or buy later calculator, lets you have a polished conversation about exactly that. Buying now at a higher rate, but getting the home for the right price, versus buying later where you could get that low rate, possibly, we don't know, but let's just hypothetically say you could get that low rate, but you're at that point paying more for the home. And that's what our buy now or buy later calculator does. Tremendous calculator. We'll take a look at that calculator when we jump over to our calculators portion of this call. But first, I want to show you this report. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll down, and I'm going to press this start sharing. This buy now or buy later report, you guys, is a multi-page report that you can take to that meeting with that buyer and really ace that conversation about them thinking about waiting for a lower rate. It starts off with a nice cover sheet here, the cost of waiting, buy now or buy later. And then, of course, it puts that big bottom line number, what it is costing them, the potential equity that they're missing out on by waiting. Now, again, this is a dynamic piece. As you can see at the bottom of the screen, it says continue. It's giving us a preview here, and it shows an example scenario, but any of our content that has example scenarios built in, they're tied to our calculators. So you can adjust the example scenario that works with your clientele. To do that, you would just press continue down there at the bottom. And this is where you go in and plug in information to dynamically customize this piece of content. I'll go ahead and plug in a 5.25 price point. Now, this piece also uses some local data. And so you do need to plug in an address. In fact, you can't even press that compute button on this piece of content until you go in and plug in an address. Because again, this report needs to pull that local data for you. And so you have to plug in an address to let the system pull that local data and beef this report up for you. Now it's going to pull that tax record for me. That's important in the calculation. So it's going to use that. And of course, because we have a special system for our taxes, when I press compute, it's going to recognize a discrepancy in last year's tax record and the estimation for this year's taxes for a new buyer based on the price point and the tax rate that we have for that area. So we've got a nice little safeguard in here to make sure that you're estimating the correct tax amount. I'll go ahead and use the estimation instead of that tax amount from the previous tax record where maybe that homeowner qualified for homestead exemption. So I'll use that new estimation, and then it's going to build that report, all the pages based on the scenario that I've plugged in. So in this example, for my client, who's thinking about waiting, but found that 525 home that they're really interested in, but they're not ready to pull the trigger. I've got a report now that's going to show them, hey, if you wait 2 years, you're missing out on $44,000 in equity. That's the bottom line. That is on the cover sheet of this report, is how much they are missing in equity by waiting. But let me scroll down and show you how the report goes. First, it gives us a breakdown of if we bought today. Purchase price 5.25. Here's the monthly payment. It's $46.90 a month that you're looking at. And of course, we've got the breakdowns. And of course, down here at the bottom, it's talking about the equity and the appreciation that I would build over this 2-year scenario. On the input screen in the assumptions, it defaulted to 2 years. You can adjust that. But in this default 2-year scenario, over 2 years, they would be building $10,000 in equity, and they would watch that house appreciate $37,000 in 2 years at this 5.25 price point. So that's what we get to start with. If you bought today, here's what you're getting. Here's your monthly payment. Here's the equity that you're building. Here's the appreciation that you're getting over those 2 years. Then, to help us in that appreciation conversation, because they're gonna, by default say, well, what appreciation are you using? And have that conversation about what they think about appreciation. I actually don't think homes are gonna appreciate, so I might not be missing out on that much appreciation if I don't buy right now. Well, let's talk about appreciation historically. Well, if you look at it, the national average for the last 50 years from Freddie Mac is about 5%. So that 3.5% that we were using by default, it's conservative. The average is actually 5%. But if we want to talk about history, look down here at this graph. These are 50-year looks at what appreciation, what home prices have done each year over the last 50 years at the national level, at the state level, and then at the county level as well, because I had to plug in that address. And so here I am able to have that conversation with that buyer who's trying to argue with me about appreciation and how they think homes are actually going to depreciate right now. I get to actually show them how rare depreciation is with a nice little look here that makes it easy for us to see how often homes actually appreciate over the last 50 years at the national level, state level, and even at the local level. It's pretty rare to see depreciation years. You're going to get at least some appreciation on almost every year that you own that home, aside from these very rare outliers that you see that are marked in red on here. So it's a really cool graphic for you to talk about appreciation and have the receipts. So I love that part. But down there at the bottom, you can also see that we've got that Freddie Mac. Oh, it's Fannie Mae 5-year forecast. If you bought today, 5 years from now, that 5.25 home would actually be $601,000. So definitely a really cool piece to assist you in that conversation about appreciation specifically. If you've got that buyer who's trying to argue with you about appreciation, you've got the receipts here. So I love this. Sam is mentioning, is it also asking, is it also deducting the carrying cost of real estate, HOA, and insurance? So we do have a holding cost calculator in regards to carrying costs specifically. But absolutely, those costs, if we're looking at a buy now scenario and then looking at where we would be in 2 years, we absolutely use those line items in the calculation to calculate the cost over those 2 years if you did buy today. So, Sam, yes, we do include those, but with you referring to them as carrying costs, I actually want to show you another calculator that we have, that holding cost calculator that you can use with an unrealistic seller to show them how much the house is costing them as it sits on the market. So, but Sam, to your question, absolutely, we do include that. Now, the next page, the final page of this report, you guys, is the head-to-head. You know, you've got two options. Option A, you buy now, and then in 2 years, because we had the default set to 2 years is when the rate would come down. In 2 years, you refinance down to that lower rate. That's option A on the left side. Buy now and then refi. You know, you buy now at 5.25, and you know, you refi later. So then we have scenario B, you just wait the 2 years. You don't buy now, you wait and in 2 years you buy. Good for you. You got the rate, the low rate that you wanted out the gate, but you missed 2 years of appreciation. You know, you missed 2 years of building equity. And so we actually give the comparison here. The total equity, if we went option A, is you're sitting on $100,000 in June of 2028. Versus option B, where you wait and you buy in June of 2028 and you're only sitting on your down payment. You know, that you haven't gotten to capitalize on that appreciation. You actually, it worked against you. You had to pay more for the home, put more down. And ultimately, you're not even sitting on as much equity, sitting on about half as much equity, in fact. So such a cool way for us to not only show them a look down these two paths, but then also show them the cost. You know, if you do not buy today, you went with option B and you buy in 2 years, you're missing out on $44,000. That's the difference in equity that we're looking at here. Buying now and then refining down versus just buying later to get that low rate, waiting and getting that low rate right out the gate. So such a cool piece of content here. It was the first one that we're highlighting in the monthly marketing package, because if you've got that buyer who's a little hesitant and they're wanting to wait for lower rates, it's home ownership month. We need to push them into home ownership. This is the type of report that will have you, you know, at least getting them to reconsider waiting for a lower rate and get them thinking about an alternative, i.e. buying today and then refinancing down to that lower rate later. So such a cool piece here. Had to cover this one. Of course, it's the first one in the June monthly marketing package, so I had to cover that with you. And again, it is also the report, the new report for our redesigned buy now or buy later calculator. The second piece that we're highlighting in our monthly marketing package this month is actually a piece that was really, it went viral on social media, an older version that we made around last year. You know, this is a seller concession. Previously, it was our seller concession cheat sheet, and you can still find that in your premium content. But, you know, it's making a comeback right now because seller concessions are a big deal right now. A lot of these buyers, they're a little hesitant. So the sellers, they're having a little bit harder of a time selling their home. So a lot of these transactions are resulting in that seller offering concessions to get the deal closed. And so, you know, I know that doesn't feel good for our sellers, and it's not something ideal for our sellers, but let's take a look on the other side of the transaction. If we have any buyers who are waiting for a lower rate and aren't going to pull the trigger right now, that seller concession could actually unlock that deal for us. You know, if that buyer, that hesitant buyer, is waiting 6 months for the Fed to cut the rate 0.5 point, you know, there's actually unique opportunity for you, Mr. Buyer. You could buy right now, submit an offer, get the house for the right price, but also ask for a concession and use that concession to buy down your rate right now. Rather than waiting 6 months for the Fed to cut the rate half a point, what if we ask for a concession and we could get you that half point decrease in your rate right now? Get you that savings right now. And then you're buying in today's market, getting the home for the right price, not having to compete with everybody else versus waiting for that Fed cut. And then you're competing with all the other buyers to get the home. You can actually buy now where there's less buyer competition, use that to your advantage, get a concession, and then get the rate that you want. And that's such a useful tactic in today's market that we wanted to create a new version of our seller concession cheat sheet so that when you spark that idea in your buyer, now you've got a report here to talk about the max amounts that you could ask for in their deal based on their loan type and how much they're putting down. Now, of course, the seller doesn't have to concede the max amount. So, us knowing the max amount, it at least just lets us know what that threshold is. What is the max amount? If I'm waiting for a full point reduction before I'm ready to pull the trigger, that's good information for me to know. Now we can see how much a full point buy down would cost, and we can, cross-reference that against this max amount to see if it's even possible. Who knows? That seller might concede that much. They might concede this max amount, but this is just something that lets you go into that conversation with your buyer and look educated. Let them know, hey, concessions are something that we could think about right now, asking for a concession, submitting an offer, asking for a concession, and help you out in regards to that rate. And you're worried about affordability because of the rate. Let's see if we can address that rate for you. And then you've got this printout that says, hey, they don't have to give us the max amount, but based on your loan type and how much you're putting down, here's how much we technically are allowed to ask for from that seller. And knowing that number, that might be the difference maker. If you've got that buyer who's thinking about waiting for a lower rate, that might be the conversation that actually gets them to say, you know what? I really want this house. I'm tired of waiting. You're bringing up some good points. Let's go ahead and submit an offer right now. Let's ask for max concessions, or max concessions is a little too much. Let's ask for 20,000 instead of 22,000. It at least gives you a frame of reference for that conversation, and you're able to be that expert with your client and talk about something that, again, a lot of these buyers don't even know. If they're a first-time home buyer, a lot of times they don't know that they can ask for a concession. They don't know about a rate buy down and how that can make the home purchase more affordable. So they're a little worried about the monthly payment that they've spoken about with their lender. You're offering a solution to that. And so this is a really cool conversation piece for you. Alden. I love Alden. So glad he's here. Happy to have you, Alden. So I can see the national 50-year average is 5.02 on my laptop, and I see the national, state, and local averages. However, the national, state, and local averages do not display on my mobile phone. Am I missing something? Go ahead and Alden, take a screenshot of that, and you can send it, of course, to our support team. But you've got my email personally. Feel free to, copy me in on that email that you sent to our support. I don't know if you were looking at the same report. So if you were, though, it's the second page of that report is where you'll see those three different appreciation graphics there. But again, if you're not seeing that, reach out to us, reach out to me and our support team, support@PalmAgent.com. Send over a screenshot and we'll get that looked at for you, brother. All right, so the buy now, buy later report's the first one. The second piece was that seller concessions limit graphic, which of course is also dynamic. So if we open it up, again, it is going to have the continue button at the bottom, and we can adjust this piece to actually work with our clientele. We don't have to take that $550 listing price seller concession report to our meeting with that buyer who's buying a house in that $375 price range. You can adjust this before using it with your client. Now, the third piece that we highlighted in our monthly marketing package, I really love this one, you guys. Why wait for a lower rate? Again, it harps on that same point. If we've got a buyer who's thinking about waiting, sometimes we need to let them know what they're waiting for. I'm going to open this piece up and we'll take a look at it. We can zoom in on it and take a look at some of the different pieces of it. So why wait for a lower rate? Dropping to 5.75 saves you $159 a month on a 550 home with 10% down. So we've got the headline there. That 575 rate is a pretty realistic rate according to a lot of the surveys that some of these buyers are waiting for. So a really cool piece here. But watch what it does down here. This little graph actually shows what the rate, the lower rate is actually saving us. On the far right side in green, if you're waiting for rates to come down to 6, you're waiting for $80. That 575 that's in the example, if you're waiting for a half point decrease from where they are right now, you're waiting for $159 in savings. $159 a month in savings is what you're waiting for. Don't get me wrong, I love savings as well, but who knows when that 5.75 is going to come? You're going to be waiting for a long time for nominal savings there. And again, the beauty of today's market is that we could possibly get that rate today. Of course, with the temporary buy down, those are cheaper. You could at least get it for this year. But even a permanent buy down won't cost that much to get down to this half point decrease right here. In fact, in this scenario, this example scenario, it would cost us about $94.50. That's all in seller concessions we would need to ask for from that seller to get this buy down to save our buyer $159 a month. Now, again, this is a dynamic piece, so you press continue. It takes you into the calculation input screen that you need to dynamically adjust this, but this is such a great piece to post on social. In fact, we're highlighting the social story version of this. This is a good piece to just let those buyers know who are thinking about waiting what they're actually waiting for, and then again, give them an example of how they could actually achieve that lower price monthly payment that they're hoping for. They could possibly achieve that now by asking for the right seller concession and then using it for a rate buy down. So such a cool piece. Definitely want you guys to get out there and start using that. Again, you can go to the different size versions of it. The final piece is actually 3 pieces in one. It's not just one piece, it's 3 different pieces for you. With it being National Home Ownership Month, again, the one holiday, real estate holiday we get, luckily it's a month long, but we wanted to give you some pieces to help you make posts for this month. On the 2 outside pieces, you'll see that they're stat pieces. They let you talk about stats about home ownership. In fact, we can go ahead and take a look at those. I'll go into the start sharing. It'll be the first 3 pieces when you open up, when you press that button. The first one lets you talk about rent net worth versus homeowner net worth. And the stats are always staggering with this. As it sits right now, the national average here, the median homeowner's net worth is about 40 times the net worth of a renter. That's jaw dropping. And this is again recent stat, but it lets you compare renting and home ownership with a nice little social graphic that you can make here. So that was the first one. The second one, I love this one as well. Home ownership by the numbers. We actually talk about some interesting stats. 65.3% of U.S. households own their home. That's more than half. 40%, 40 times. This is the median net worth, or the net worth of the median renter versus the net worth of a homeowner. 13 years is how long the typical homeowner stays, and of course, equity compounds that whole time. And then 82 million American households are homeowners. So this is just a cool stat piece. Again, National Home Ownership Month. It gives you a nice relevant post to make this month. There's 3 different ones, so you can share them throughout the month when you'd like, but we wanted to arm you guys with 3 different posts. My favorite is actually the final one. This is where we're letting you showcase one of those buyers that bought to this month. So we have this new homeowner spotlight piece. You, of course, can press the customize report button up there at the top, and that's where you'll be able to upload a photo of that buyer that you helped close in home ownership month and celebrate them. Just closed June 2026. It was an honor to hand you the keys. Here's to the new memories, lasting stability, and the equity you'll build for years to come. This one's all yours. A nice post for us to make to celebrate our buyer who pulled the trigger in National Home Ownership Month. So again, 3 separate social posts that you can make for the month in that last category. Definitely a very packed monthly marketing package this month. A lot of cool stuff in there. Hopefully you guys, saw some value in some of that content. Maybe some of you already are posting it. Now, I only have 25 more minutes with you guys. And so I'm going to switch to the calculators tab because, as you know, we've got 28 calculators in here. For those of you in California, we've got 30 for you with the Prop 19 and CalHFA. But, there's a lot of different tools in here to help you in your conversations with your clients. And some of the tools go so well with those pieces of content that we were just talking about that were highlighted in the monthly marketing package this month. In fact, the first one I'll show you is a simple calculator, the concession cheat sheet calculator. I know we talked about that seller concession limits piece, but the concession cheat sheet calculator is an interesting one because not only can you plug in current concessions that are already agreed upon, maybe that home is listed and they already have concessions noted in their listing. They're already offering $3,000 in concessions or whatever the case may be. They already are offering concessions. So that's already part of the deal. That's already something that's in there. So I want to go ahead and make sure to include that in my cheat sheet here. They're already offering $3,000 in concessions. I still want to know how much concession room I have left over past that $3,000. And so you can actually plug in current concessions already. When you hit compute, it's then going to tell you how much concessions room for that max concession amount based on your loan type and how much you're putting down. There is a max concession amount, max interested party contribution, IPCs. There is a max amount to those. In this scenario, it's 31.5. But since they're already saying that 3,000 in concessions is already part of the deal, I still got 28.5 and more concessions that I could ask for. Now, they don't have to agree to that much in concessions, but again, me fighting for my buyer, having a conversation with my buyer, I want to give them every bit of concessions that I can get them. I'll submit an offer that asks for max concessions. I want to help my buyer out. They're worried about affordability. I want to get them the buy down that they need for this to be a purchase that they're comfortable with. And so in that conversation with my client, it's already great for me to be able to calculate how much more we could ask for. Even if we don't ask for the full thing, it's good for us to know what we could ask for. But the printout that's available in this calculator is in my opinion, better for meeting with a specific client. The other ones, they show the full breakdown and it shows the full cheat sheet. But the printout that we have in here, it'll be specific because I already know how much they're paying for the house, how much they're putting down, and what their loan type is. And so this actually shows, the seller concession for their specific scenario. And of course, we do have some different templates down here in bottom left. You can access some of those full cheat sheet reports that show the full breakdown. But this is a cool piece because it actually is tailored to the details that we've already typed in the calculator. We already know how much they're putting down, but it also shows, hey, if you wanted to put less down, we get less in concessions that we could ask for. If you could put more down, we could ask for more. So a really cool piece here that actually tailors it to that specific scenario. So definitely some cool stuff there. And it's a simple calculator, but since there is that concessions, seller concession limits piece that we're highlighting in the monthly marketing package, and we've seen it be such a successful tactic for agents who are having a hard time getting some buyer activity, getting some movement with their buyers, I wanted to go over that calculator because again, asking for seller concessions, knowing your way around seller concessions is good in today's market. That could be the benefit that your buyer needs in today's market. So definitely one I wanted to go over with you. The other one I have to go over with you is the buy now or buy later. Since that first report that is being highlighted in the monthly marketing package is based off of our buy now or buy later calculator, it is the full report available for this calculator. I do want to go through this calculator with you real quick. It's going to take a little while because it is a robust calculator, but I just want to at least let you know what's built into this. So you plug in a home price, and the buy now or buy later calculator, when you press compute, it's going to first give you the buy now scenario. If we bought today, here's our monthly payment, here's our bring to close. Simple, cut and dry. Now, where this calculator evolves, up there at the top, that's where you'll see additional tabs. So the next tab to this calculator is the appreciation tab. This is where you can give that buyer a look at how much that house could cost in the future. You know, you're looking at a house at 5.25, you're not ready to pull the trigger on it, you're thinking about waiting. Well, if you wait 2 years with average appreciation, 3.5%, that house that you're looking at right now for 5.25, it's gonna be 562. Now, maybe that buyer's only gonna wait 1 year, they're just gonna re-sign their lease, we can change that. You know, and if they want to argue with us about that appreciation percentage, we've got all the information below what the experts are expecting over the next 12 months, what Fannie Mae is seeing for the next 5 years, and then, of course, the national, state, and local look over the last 50 years. And it looks like we also threw in, the additional 25. So there's 75 on the national look, but it gives you, again, the ability to have that conversation and talk about appreciation. If they want to argue about that 3.5% appreciation, you've got all the receipts down there to have that conversation about appreciation. But you can also slide that slider. Okay, Mr. Hesitant Buyer, you think homes are only going to appreciate 2%, like, less than, most of the experts, but yeah, sure. Let's talk about 2%, and let's talk about just 1 year. Even at a more conservative appreciation rate over just 1 year, that house that you're looking at right now that you're on the fence about, it's going to be 535 next year. Do you feel better about buying it at that price? You know, we all know homes typically appreciate, generally appreciate. Sometimes we need to see what that actual number is. This is the amazing tool just to have that conversation and remind that buyer about something they're not thinking about. When they're thinking about waiting, they're not thinking about, oh, that's missed appreciation. Oh man, I'd have to pay more for the home at that point. They're not thinking about that. This gives you the ability to have that conversation. Now, the next tab is where I'll stop on this calculator. It's the refi tab. This is that comparison that I showed you on the full report. It's got, buy now and refinance in 1 year, since I changed it to 1 year, versus just waiting 1 year and buying. And we show them the monthly payment difference in those two scenarios. Obviously, getting the home for the right price today and then refinancing down, we've got the better monthly payment. It's so important for our monthly payment to get the home for the right price. Then, of course, down there at the bottom, we've got the equity look as well, where they'd stand equity-wise in 1 year if they were to buy now and then refi versus if they were to just buy in 1 year. So, again, a nice little comparison. And, of course, like I said, this is that report that we looked at is the report for this calculator now. And so if I press that share icon up there at the top, it is going to generate that multi-page report for me. That I can take to that meeting with that buyer. I can text it over to him, email it over to him. Definitely a cool piece here. So that is your buy now or buy later calculator. If you've got a buyer who's thinking about waiting, that is truly a tremendous tool for you to use with them. In fact, the other tool, since we're still on that buyer conversation, since most of the content that we highlighted is specifically for buyers and getting buyers to become homeowners this month in National Homeownership Month, I want to show you the other tool that the savvy agents are using to give that little nudge to a buyer. Again, since I talked about the tactic of a buy down being so important for today's market and it being the key to unlocking that affordability issue for some of these buyers, I want you to know your way around our buy down calculator. So I'm going to go to that buy down calculator. Our buy down calculator is awesome for several reasons. First, you'll notice that in the second line item here, you can do a variety of different buy downs. Of course, we've got the temporary ones, very popular right now, 1-0, 2-1, 3-2-1. So you can do those temporary buy downs, but you can also do a permanent buy down where it'll calculate discount points and all that. But I'll just do a 2-to-1 buy down. Those are really popular right now. And I'm going to plug in a price point. I'll do a 5.25 price point. First, right off the rip, it's going to show me how much that buy down costs. So on a 5.25 home, to do a 2-to-1 buy down, it's going to cost me about $11,000. So right off the rip, you're able to see the cost of that. Again, I know lenders are typically handling these buy downs. They're usually the ones having that conversation with the buyer about a buy down. But if we can have that conversation with our buyer about something that could make this home purchase more affordable for them, we need to be able to have that conversation with them. Yeah, of course, we'll connect you with a lender. They'll be the ones to handle all that, and they'll dial it in, get us an exact cost. They each have different costs for some of these features, but the rough cost for this 2-to-1 buy down, which is something that will help you tremendously in the first 2 years of your loan, in regards to that interest rate that you're a little worried about and that you're waiting for a lower rate. I've got something that we could do. Let's talk about a 2-to-1 buy down. We're able to educate our buyer on something that's going to help them out right now. That light at the end of the tunnel that they needed. They're starting to get disheartened from where rates are, and I don't know. I think I got to wait. I just can't buy at today's rate. It's making that monthly payment too difficult for me. This could be the calculation that you have a conversation with them about that actually gets them to move forward. Is that breath of fresh air that they needed in that affordability crisis that they're going through. So let's go ahead and hit compute. First, it gives us the ability to explain what's happening in this 2-to-1 buy down. Now, mind you, we deal with buy downs, as agents, not super regularly, but we at least know, most of us, what they are. That buyer, though, that first-time home buyer, they have no idea what a 2-to-1 buy down even is. And so we get to be the expert in the moment. Instead of the lender taking all that, we get to be the expert and explain a 2-to-1 buy down to our buyer right here. With a 2-to-1 buy down, that first year, you're dropping your interest rate 2 percentage points. So instead of a 6.6, the no buy down scenario, in that first year of the buy down scenario, you're dropping to a 4.6. So you're saving about $596 a month, and that's about $11,000 cost. Again, 10.8 is what it costs, but you're saving $596 a month for that first year. The second year, you're saving $305 a month. And then, of course, years 3 through 30, you're back up to that normal rate and back up to the normal monthly payment. And so it gives us a clean way of illustrating to our buyer what's happening in this buy down and show them the savings that they're getting. And I like to say to a buyer, with a buy down, a temporary buy down like this, you're getting that $11,000 discount in the first 2 years of the loan. Now, the average homeowner, we saw it on that other piece, is living in the house for 13 years. They're not even living in the house for the full 30-year term length. And so why would you want to spread that $11,000 discount over the full 30 years? When you can spread it over just the first 2 years, you're only going to be in the house for 8 to 13 years. You're actually getting that $11,000 discount when you're actually going to be in the house. So a cool way of looking at it. But what I love about our calculator here, you guys, up here at the top, there's a compare tab. And this is what takes this calculator to the next level. Basically, it's going to compare a reduction scenario on the left versus this ask for a concession from the seller scenario that we're talking here. And so on the left side, maybe our buyer wants us to submit that $515 offer on that 5.25 home. They want that $10,000 in the form of a lower price. They want to pay less for the home, which great. That saved them about $97 a month. Yeah, we can submit a $515 on that 5.25, save you about $97 a month. Or a better way for us to get that $11,000 discount, we offer them the 5.25 that they want, but then we ask for $11,000 concession, and then we use that concession for a 2-to-1 buy down. We do it this way, we're saving you almost $600 a month that first year. Second year, $300 a month. Those are the types of numbers, you guys, that actually move the needle for that hesitant buyer who's worried about affordability. You know, if they're feeling the pain of that high monthly payment, $97 a month in savings versus $600 a month in savings, this is the type of scenario that you can talk about with that buyer and actually, again, be that that fresh breath of air for them that they need. And so, such a tremendous tool. For those of you who don't know about this calculator, I urge you to just pull this calculator out and run rough scenarios with it. If you're confident enough, use it in front of your client. You'd be surprised at how this might unlock that buyer. That buyer's thinking about waiting. You might be able to start a conversation and talk about something that they could do right now to get some of those savings that they're trying to wait for. So definitely a really cool piece there that I had to go over with you guys, that buy down calculator. Now, the last calculator that I do want to cover with you, maybe you've already seen it. I might have talked about it in last month's marketing package, our true value analysis calculator. I know most of today we've talked about the buy side, and I've given you some good tactics for working with those hesitant buyers. But the other dynamic of today's market is that some of these sellers, they're a little unrealistic right now. And so we also built a couple of tools for you guys to help you in that pricing conversation with those sellers to get them thinking about listing at a more reasonable price. You know, a lot of times these sellers, we're going into that listing appointment. They're wanting us to list it way up here, and we're looking at the comps and we're like, your house is actually worth about this much, if we even have the confidence to say that to them. A lot of times it just ends up us listing it for the number that they want to list it for. It sits on the market for 6 months, and then in 6 months we have that awkward conversation with them about a more realistic listing price for this market. We don't want you to wait 6 months where they've spent all that holding costs and then you've got an awkward conversation about doing a reduction. We don't want it to go like that. We want you to be able to have that conversation up front. Be the expert. Talk about the risks involved in pricing the house too high. Talk about that up front so you can educate them into making a more realistic listing price right out the gate. So our true value analysis calculator is the ultimate tool to help you with that. We actually pushed out an update 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Maybe I didn't even cover it on our last advance call because it wasn't out yet. But we pushed out an update that makes this way easier to even use. Now, typically you'd have to plug in those 3 price points because you're able to run 3 net sheets, 3 different price point scenarios. Then you'd have to plug in their loan balance. And then, of course, if the house sits, it's accruing all these holding costs. So we had to input those holding costs, have that conversation with our seller so we can really paint a realistic picture of how much this house is costing if we price it too high and it sits for longer than it needs to. You know, Mr. Seller, what are you paying in HOA over there? What's the electricity bill typically run you? You know, we'd have to have that conversation with our homeowner about those costs. You know, with our new update, you guys, all you have to do is plug an address in the top left corner, and we're going to fill out the entire input screen to this calculator for you. Extremely easy to use. This is something that I can do while I'm walking up to the door for that listing appointment. First, it pulls the tax record. Great. This is what the seller paid in taxes last year anyway, so probably more applicable in a seller calculator here. If I press next, the other thing that we've always done, we pulled that estimated loan balance for you. We see when they started a loan, how much they started it for. If we use the average rate for the year that loan was originated, we can run an amortization schedule and tell you what they owe today. In this scenario, that's $376,000 that homeowner owes on their mortgage today if they've been regular on their payments. And those 2 pieces, really awesome. Taxes, loan balance, we've done that for a long time. The next 2 screens, though, take this calculator to the next level. First, we're going to give you the 3 prices. the low end, the market, the high end. We've got those detailed out. And this confidence score that shows on the screen is actually showing you how much overlap there is between the different data providers that we're buying this data from. There's 7 different data providers, and we cross-reference those against each other, and how much overlap there is, that's actually the confidence score. So, best AVM in the industry, in my opinion, because we're buying the data from all the AVMs and then testing it against itself. So cool stuff there. But the last piece of this HomeLink edition that we did that I love so much, it's my favorite, the costs. Those holding costs. We created cost intelligence, the taxes, insurance, HOA, some of that stuff we're able to see automatically. We've got those data providers that we're buying the data from. But then there's stuff like the electricity bill, which we're using AI and local data to estimate an electricity bill, a seasonally adjusted electricity bill. We can see the average kilowatts per hour for different areas. We can see the square footage of the home. If we use those in tandem, we can actually estimate an electricity bill for that home. It'll recognize if the house has a pool and calculate the pool maintenance costs for that area. All those costs, you guys, automatically populated here. We press use data and it fills out the entire input screen here for us. Of course, again, something I can do as I'm walking up to the house. I pull up to the house, I get out of my truck, I'm walking up to the door, and before I'm even knocking on the door, I'm pressing compute, and I've got my 3 different prices, my pricing strategies laid out. The low end, where it flies off the market and doesn't cost them much. And then the other side of the spectrum, they list it for too high, and it could sit for 6 months and cost them about 16, 17 grand while it sat there. But if it sits for 6 months, we got to talk about a reduction, Mr. Seller. Let me flip this toggle for reductions. It throws a reduction section on here, and now I can call out the nets after reduction. We might be better off. We might actually net you more listing it on the low end, getting some serious attention behind this house, maybe even forcing a bidding war at that price because there's not another neighborhood in this, or another house in this neighborhood priced that low. And you're walking with 305, as opposed to listing it on the high end where you want to list it. It gives you 6 months of headaches. They're kicking you out on the weekend so they can tour your home. Cost you about 16 grand while it sat there for that long. Then you've got egg on your face from doing a reduction all the neighbors saw. And ultimately, you're not even netting as much. We might be better off listing this on the low end and getting some serious attention behind this price. And of course, we've got the market stats tab up there at the top where we're going to pull local data from Altos to support you in that conversation. Average days on market, Mr. Seller, in this neighborhood, in this city, 87 days. I want to sell your house faster than that, but I just need you to know if we don't price this thing correctly, it could sit for a while. The average in this city here, Grapevine, Texas, is 87 days. Percent of listings that took a price decrease, that's the other one I absolutely love to call out in a conversation with that unrealistic seller. 46% of listings in this neighborhood, this city, had to do a reduction. That's 1 in every 2 listings, Mr. Seller. I don't want to be on the wrong side of that statistic. I don't want us to have to do a reduction later on down the road. We got to price this thing right out the gate so we're not doing a reduction later. So it gives us, the statistical context to really look like a superstar in that conversation. And then the report, the tangible leave behind, if you press that share icon, there's the full report, which is a 1-pager. The TVA report is actually my favorite. It's a 5-page packet that we could take to that meeting with that seller and talk about pricing in a really educated manner, have a talk about how the longer a house sits on the market, buyers start submitting those lowball offers. And, we've got the local and national data here to support us in that conversation. Then we can talk about those holding costs. Look, if it sits 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, here's how much it's costing us as it sat. Next, we've got the full report, the 1-pager that shows all 3 pricing strategies, holding costs in orange, reductions in red, showing their adjusted final net at all 3 strategies. Nice, clean visual for us to illustrate this concept to our seller. And then, of course, the last page being the net sheet that our app is famous for. That's why we're calling this the new net sheet. It lets you create that net sheet for your listing appointment, but you're going to go into that listing appointment armed with these additional pages of educational material so that you look like a rock star in that pricing conversation. So, tremendous tool. Had to go over this with you. I know some of you have seen it already. I do want to take a second to see if there's any questions that I missed, but while I do that, I want to put up this QR code. Again, please take the survey. Please, please, please take the survey. Not only does it let my boss know if this is something that we want to continue doing and if it's valuable to you and your business, but also, like I said earlier, we've got the ability for you guys to sign up to be on beta lists for new features that we add. So, of course, I want you to go in there, take that survey. It'll take 60 seconds, but it definitely helps us evolve the tool and continue to innovate and build the tools that you guys are looking for, that you need in your business. The feedback helps us do that. So please submit your feedback via that survey. It'll just take a minute, but thank you all for joining. Hopefully you got a lot of value out of this. Real quick, I'm going to look in the chat section. I don't see any questions right now. Are there any outstanding questions that any of you guys have? I know we covered a lot, but any questions that you guys have that I'm not? Oh, thank you. Really good session. Thank you, Dita. We do this monthly. This is something that we do every month. We do our basics call once a week where it covers the buyer calculator, seller calculator, and then how to adjust your profile. And then once a month, I do this advanced call where I talk about the newest tools that we've introduced or the most relevant ones. And then, of course, the content that we've highlighted in the monthly marketing package. So we do this every month. Terry asked if this is being recorded. Absolutely. Joining this call, you'll get the recording sent to you. So watch your email inbox for that. Thank you, Thomas. Yes, we've got the survey link. I've got Chris sending that to you right now. So he'll send that to you, but absolutely you can press on that link for anybody who is joining from a mobile device and can actually scan that QR code. We're going to paste that link in the chat section. So we've got that up. Let's see, any other questions? I got Alden, talked about Sam, Harry. Scroll down on this Q&A over here for me, Chris. Okay, great. Thank you. Awesome. I don't know if there's still in the chat section anything. Okay. Awesome. Oh, how do we get to the full report in the last piece? Okay, so we're on our true value analysis. If I can get my screen back up, if you want to switch scenes for me, Chris. So the full report. So I'm on my true value analysis, input screen here. I'll press compute. On our result screen, that share icon in the top right corner, the full report is just the one page. The report that I just went through is actually the TVA report. That's that 5-page packet that you'll be able to access. The 5-page report, the TVA report, and the local data from Altos both require a subscription to premium to be able to access. But again, 99 cents a month, well worth it. But if you're talking about that report we were just looking at, that is the TVA report. That's what that 5-page packet is. So great question there. Let me see that chat section. Anything else on here? Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. We'll send that recording out to you, Miss Eng. Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining us. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. And again, follow us on Facebook and Instagram. You can search PalmAgent, but we're excited to have you using the app. Thank you for being the best realtors in the biz. You're keeping us as the best app in the biz. So thank you for using the app. Thank you for your feedback. And thank you for joining today. Tracy, good to see you here. All right, you guys have a wonderful rest of the day, and we'll see you on the next one.